to the promise of a great afternoon ahead for all of us. We bring you the latest stories of the day in the next hour. I'm Denise.
Hello, ako po si Lourd de Veyra. Hail to unity, the golden age, and sabi nga ni Bono ng U2, gold is the reason for the wars we've made. Basta tayo, realistic expectations lang. Black kung black, white kung white. Welcome to Afternoon Delight.
Okay, it's Tuesday, January 21. Delight of the day natin. Nako, parang saktong-sakto sa tema ng araw na to. Halo-halo po. This is to capture the mood of a very important day in America where there are mixed reactions to President Donald Trump's policy direction.
Witty, in fairness, mixed reaction. Get it? Halo-halo.
Okay, oo nga. Ang dami naman kasi talagang
Mix, ika nga.
Oo.
Oh, parang yung, actually parang metaphor din yung halo-halo mismo. As a dish.
Pag-usapan muna natin ito.
Oh, as a dessert. Kasi kung tutuusin mo,
Ay.
sabi nila, kala mo Pinoy, pero Hapon daw ang roots nito.
Totoo ba?
Isa sa mga early delights natin na ito, naalala mo part?
Oo.
Halo-halo.
Yes.
O di ba sa Hapon nga daw yung origins nito. Pero sa panahon ngayon, wala namang strictly Filipino, strictly this and that. Nagko-criss-cross yung mga cultural influences
Correct.
natin. Diba? Okay, so, kanina, a few hours ago, si Trump, nag-swear in na siya as President number 47. At napanood mo ba yung ibang mga seremonya, mga nangyari sa seremonya?
Mga snippets, not the whole thing. Dahil I believe it's what 1 a.m. in Washington right now. But nevertheless, dahil nga sworn in na si President-elect Donald Trump, or President Donald Trump rather, siya na ang pinaka-topic ngayon all over social media. Kahit saan po kayo pumunta, yan talaga. Siya talaga ang pinag-uusapan. And again, in case you missed it, here's Donald Trump taking his second oath of office courtesy of the Associated Press, and they say it is noticeable that he did not put his hand on the Bible. Watch this.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Grabe, sorry Alam mo na ako napansin.
Ano?
Ano ang height ni Baron Trump ngayon?
Ay.
Kasi dati, nung first inauguration niya, halos kasing laki niya lang si Baron. Eh si Baron nun, teenager lang eh. Pero my God, tinan mo, nasa 7 na ata ito, considering nasa 6. Mga 6-footers to sila sila Trump eh, pati yung mga anak niya. Pero si Baron, tingnan mo, hindi kaya maglalaro sa yan, Boston Celtics.
Okay.
Yan.
Oo.
Partner, ano masasabi mo dyan?
Well, ano masasabi?
Yung sinabi na very noticeable daw na hindi niya nilagay yung isang kamay niya doon sa Biblia. May mga joke tungkol dyan eh.
Anong mga joke na nabasa mo?
Baka mag-sue daw for harassment yung libro.
Ay,
It doesn't have to be,
grabe naman
it doesn't have to be a Bible.
Oo.
Kahit Sa Pilipinas, Bible ba mga ginagamit? Depende sa ano, no? May mga presidente na yung family Bible ang ginagamit nila. Siguro para inisip ko, inclusive lahat. Para, o baka natakot yung...
Pag-usapan natin yan sa susunod. Pero ito,
Huwag mong sabihin
Oh.
na hindi mo nahalata kung ano suot ni Tita Melania mo.
ay, mamaya, mababanggit natin yan. Pero again, as mentioned, it is expected that a lot of stories on social media is about President Trump. On the Associated Press, the headline reads, Trump moves quickly to flex power. Here's what Trump did in the first hours of his presidency. So una, he revoked 78 of ex-President Joe Biden's policies. He also pardoned 1,500 rioters from the January 6, 2021 insurrection. To keep TikTok online for now, there is a 75-day grace period from the U.S. ban. He also signed sweeping order on death penalty and orders Attorney General to make sure all states have lethal injection drug supply. Suspended as well, U.S. foreign assistance for 90 days pending review. U.S. is also out of the World Health Organization. He also threatens 25% tariffs for Canada and Mexico and rescinds EOs protecting diversity, LGBTQIA+ rights. Begins campaign to withdraw from Paris Climate Agreement and to cancel flights for nearly 1,660 Afghan refugees.
Hardcore yan.
Ito pa, dagdag pa dyan, he said that he will only recognize 2 genders and calls this era in America, ito parang ano to parang pamilyar to, the new golden age. Also, something that is familiar, he says he is calling for unity. Okay, he also vows to take back Panama Canal, and there were talks of manifest destiny in space.
Hanep.
Ang dami. Okay.
Manifest Destiny, kasama rin tayo dyan Na Manifest Destiny tayo ni ni McKinley o yung mga Amerikano nung kanilang colonial expansion era. Pero partner, okay. Eto flex agad, marami siyang pinirmahan yung first day pa lang. Pero yung mga medyo disturbing dyan, yung lalo na sa environment yung sa Paris Climate Change Agreement. Essentially, itong si Trump kasama ng big business ay sa mga hindi naniniwala na ang pag-init ng ating mundo is caused by yung massive greenhouse gas emissions. No? Ang teorya kasi, at ito ay may siyensya na papatunay dito, no? Na ang malalaking mga usok na nilalabas ng first world industries, ang pinaka naapektuhan ay yung mga bansang tulad natin, yung mga maliliit, at kumbaga may mga climate vulnerabilities at dapat binabalanse yan or may kompensasyon din na kahit papano. No? Ilang mga usapan dyan. Itong US pulling out, malaking bagay ito. Marami kasing bansa na hindi naniniwala dyan. Pero good luck na lang kasi singilin na sila mga apo-apo at mga apo nila sa tuhod kung mga ganyan lang din.
Kung maapektuhan.
Pwede. Sabagay. Tangad naman si Baron, di ba? Oo, hanggang dito lang yung baha sa kanya.
Okay. Madami tayong kailangang himayin, again, with all of those things that he signed. Pero move on muna tayo sa susunod nating storya on BBC. Decoding Donald Trump's new official portrait. I'm sure you guys have seen this. So,
Katakot,
kakaiba, ha? Pakita ba natin? Ayan, pakita natin.
Yan.
Medyo malaki.
Di ba? Saan ka nakahanap ng official portrait na ang ilaw ay parang serial killer ang datingan? Lit from below. Di ba sa mga bata, pag nagdatakutan tayo nun,
Yung flashlight.
yung flashlight dito sa ilalim galing.
Actually, may nag-comment. Ito, former White House photographer si Eric Draper. So, he's worked with former President George Bush during his 8-year presidency. Ang sabi niya, nag-comment siya dun sa sa portrait ni President Trump. Sabi niya, it was heavily manipulated with both studio lighting and retouching after the shoot. The photo appeared to use monster lighting, sabi
Monster
niya,
lighting
to
talaga.
dramatically illuminate the president-elect from below and make his eyes pop. Sabi niya.
Anong klaseng ice ba gusto nila mangyari?
Ito, the lighting suggests seriousness and intent. Sabi naman yan ng isang senior documentary photography lecturer. Ano kaya ang intent?
I mean business.
Ganun ba yon?
Or yung Machiavellian dictum na faced with the choice between being loved and being feared, piliin mo raw yung mas kinatatakutan ka. Kasi tingnan mo naman, ano yung itsura ng kanyang previous official portrait?
Ayan, sige, yan mo dyan.
Trump 2017 portrait.
Actually, yung bago niyang portrait naman, ang sabi sa social media
Nakasmile
daw.
siya dati kasi.
Oo. Hindi, ano nga you're comparing it to the first one, ano? Pero this one is now being compared, the most recent one is now being compared daw sa mugshot.
Oh,
ng
yung
2020. Oo, yun daw yung
Ito
naging
kasi
comparison.
dati niya tinanong.
Ito, all
Diba?
smiles.
Parang bibenta ka ng Biblia eh.
It's very different nga, no?
Diba? Iba. Siguro ayaw niya yan. Gusto niya. Gusto ko yung natatakot sa akin mga tao. Ito ba yung kanyang ano? Ito ba yung kanyang mugshot? Hindi. Pero tinan mo, di ba?
Iba pa ulit na look yan eh.
Medyo, hindi malayo yan sa mugshot niya. Pero alam mo, isa sa mga surprises din dito sa kanyang sa coverage kanina. Na-realize, buhay pa pala si J.D. Vance. My God. As yung, di ba all throughout, tanong tayo ng tanong, ano nangyari kay J.D. Vance? Andiyo pa pala. Ganun pa rin ang itsura. At yung official portrait ni J.D. Vance, ay
Ano?
anong reading mo sa kanya?
Ay, ang hirap, hindi naman ako nag-analyze ng ganyan.
Hindi, yung initial impression lang
ano
sa'yo.
nangyari?
Parang, would you buy a car from this man? Kumbaga, gano'n ang dating. Ayan, no?
Siguro depende sa mood ko. Kung anong dating niya sa akin that day. Kung ganyan ang ipapakita niya sa akin.
Trump's scowling new portrait is revenge. Ano to, revenge?
Sige, ano natin?
Ito kasi yata yung yan yung mugshot.
Baka kaya nakukumpara. Silipin natin, bakit hindi?
Tapos meron namang OA na BBC
Ito.
article. Oo.
Ito nga yun. Ito yung mugshot
Yung
on the left.
2023. Oo.
Ayan, pakita natin.
Kaya dapat yung mga mugshot ninyo, mag-smile kayo lagi.
Parang nakasmile din pag nag-portrait na.
Para hindi kayo mukhang, di ba pati sa mga passport, dapat pwede tayong umiti sa mga passport.
Hindi kasi mababago daw yung itsura. Dapat yung unang tingin lang sa'yo. Di ba?
Kita mo, ang nagagawa ng simpleng smile.
Smile ka nga. Okay, sige.
Di ba,
Ano?
nababago ba yung mukha ko pag nag-smile ako?
Tingnan natin isa pa. Paki-screenshot na lang, guys.
Parang nagsistroke ako eh. No?
Okay, another story still on BBC. Carrie Underwood goes a cappella, Melania's air kiss, and other moments. Ayun nga yung mga ibang pinag-uusapan. Teka lang, nasa na ba ako? Nasang na ba ako?
Ito.
Website. Ito.
Dito ka.
Ito.
Ayan.
Ayan. Oo. Kasi yung kanta niya, Carrie Underwood, apparently, parang nagkaroon ng problems from the start. So, nag-a-cappella na lang siya. And apparently, may mga nakikanta rin daw ng konti. That's what I read,
Sabayan niyo na lang.
Oo. Tapos, natapos rin naman sa palakpakan. Tapos, si Carrie Underwood, of course, she was heavily criticized for choosing to perform. Pero, ang sabi niya kasi is that she loves our country and she is honored. Sabi niya, I love our country and I'm honored to have been asked to sing at the inauguration and to be a small part of this historic event. Yan yung sabi niya.
Sagot dyan, ayaw daw gawin ni Taylor Swift. At Village People, na-imagine nyo ba? Village People kakanta niyan. Anyway, si Carrie Underwood, ay ano ba siya? Ano bang sikat?
Ano siya? Nanalo siya nung American Idol.
American Idol.
Back in 2005.
Tinan mo si Biden Si Biden, tinan mo. Either sumasabay siya sa kanta, or kukuha ka ng tuwalya, pupuna sa may
Baka
gilid.
naman nakikikanta lang.
But si Trump, tinan mo, suplado dating ano.
Baka nahuli lang sa lyrics. Oo.
Ito naman si J.D. Vance, ano kaya nasa isip?
Nakikakanta din.
Hindi, parang hindi na may passport ba tong, may visa ba tong mukha naman. So, MAGA meets American Idol.
Pero hindi lang yan yung pinag-uusapan. Of course, pinag-uusapan din yung tinatawag nilang awkward moment daw.
Bakit naman?
Kasi eventually, lumapit itong si President Trump sa kanyang may bahay, and then when he went for a kiss,
Yan na.
ayan, papakita na ba dito? When he went for a kiss, biglang hindi umabot.
Ayan.
Yun! Air kisses lang. Dahil nga yung style nung cap, o nung hat rather, parang medyo, nakahadlang.
Nakasmile si Melania, tinan mo. Yeah, hindi na ako nalikan. Partner, pansin mo, walang brim yung hat ko.
Oh. Bakit?
Walang brim.
Oh. Anong gusto mo mangyari?
Wala lang, sinabi ko lang. Si Melania may brim. Oo. Ayan, si Mrs. Vance. Pero, naku, Diyos ko. Unang-unang araw pa lang, ang dami ng material para sa late night comedians. Itong simple gesture
I know. Pero alam mo, partner, I'm sure madami pa tayong mga pwedeng malaman at yung mga hindi nakuha ng camera while it was all happening. So now, let's call in someone who was actually there in the inauguration of American President Donald Trump. Of course, I'd like to welcome back to Afternoon Delight, John P.B. Jose, founder and CEO of the American Tomorrow Project. Hello, John. Good afternoon from the Philippines. I know it's late there, so thank you for taking the time.
Of course, magandang tanghali din sa inyo, Lourd and Denise. Thanks again for your hospitality last time I was there, and happy to be on again.
Okay, so tell us all about it. What was your experience? What did you see there?
Sure. I mean, so, originally we were supposed to be seated. I had seated tickets at the inauguration. No. But it's because of the frigid cold weather and the wind chill. Talagang ang care of ni President Trump is make sure that people are safe, and he just had to do it indoors. So it was the first time they've done an inauguration indoors since 1985, when President Ronald Reagan was sworn in for his second term. So it was a fascinating day. Probably a little bit different sa mga kinompare nyo sa stories nyo earlier. I know you guys pointed out a lot of what you might seem as negative and what social media was talking about, but you're forgetting to highlight the other part that, the voters really did vote for him, and with a strong mandate. And, it was a very positive result in terms of the messaging to the Republican Party. So, yung lahat ng mga pinagkampanya niya mula nung umpisa, talagang tinupad niya sa unang araw pa lang niya. So, sa aming mga Republicans, yun ang mga nakikita namin, yun ang mga gusto naming makitang results. Yun yung mga hindi lang sinasabi, hindi lang sinasalita, pero ginagawa din sa first day pa. So if you would look at probably in 4 years ago, I know the media probably does a separate kind of narrative compared to President Biden's inauguration of a new day in America compared to what it is now. So I just like to, make sure that we kind of do it a little bit even on terms of how we look at the inauguration for this 2025 as well.
Okay, John, I get what you're saying, no? Sinasabi nga nila.
Mag-cover.
No, sinasabi nga nila na the American people has spoken. He did get the votes, di ba? But I also just want to quickly get your comments on what we just showed a while ago. The photo, the official portrait, what's your take on that? And, some official photographers of the past president saying it was deliberately done to show intent. Ano kayang intent yung sinasabing yon?
Well, I think the intent is to show that he's here for business, right? This is a second term that he didn't even have to do, right? He wanted to do this to make a comeback and to make sure that he does it for the American people. One of the biggest things that he always says is, they're all coming after you, and he's just the one that's getting in the way. So yun yung, I think, the indication of what he has in this photo, compared to the first term that he had as, that was more of a, I'm coming in and I'm trying to change things up. But now I think that the narrative when it comes to this photograph shows that he means business. He's seen that America's gone in decline when it comes to the open borders, the bad economy, and now it's time to do business and it's time to turn this country back around.
John, may dala ka bang bag kanina?
Wala.
Oh,
Kailangan kailangan wala kang masyadong dalhin para makakilos ng ayos.
oh kanina kasi, well, may mga pinakita mga mounds of bags, ano? Some of them, mga Coach, iba mga LV. Kasi may security limitations ata yung measurements ng bags. Oo. Pero paano kaya yon?
Yeah.
Oo. Maraming nandun sa Capital One kanina na hindi na nagawang mag-tuxedo or mag-suit or ano kasi parang
Yeah. So
go.
ang yung sa rally, yun
Yeah.
yung mas parang yung swearing in kanina.
Yeah.
That's more or less formal.
Yeah.
That's more of like a celebration. Tonight I just came back from the inaugural ball, just finished the Liberty Ball, where President Trump just danced here with Melania and the First Family, and then listened to the performances of Nelly, Jason Aldean, the Village People as well. So now is almost a cap to the evening. Yung Capital One rally kanina, yun yung alternative sa outdoor swearing-in ceremony. Ang haba ng pila. I mean, it's 20,000 seats, and there's over hundreds of thousands of ticketed guests. I know specifically of Filipino volunteers that we had that came all the way from Nevada to come to this event. They had good seated tickets, but they wanted to be there in the rally, that they lined up 1:30 ng umaga hanggang mag-open yung doors ng 7 o'clock. So talagang balot-balot ang mga supporters dito, and the weather didn't stop them.
Were there anything that you saw that we didn't necessarily see on cam? Very interesting moments or thought?
In terms of the inauguration, that I thought that was fascinating to see was the world leaders. Javier Milei, Giorgia Meloni, and then also the representatives from the Chinese government that was there. Talagang malakas magpatama si President Trump, and I think he was sending some strong messages internationally, and to threaten and to take the United States again seriously. Over the past 4 years, nobody has really respected the world leadership of President Biden in terms of commanding wars and saving all of this. And you can see that he showed a lot more aggressiveness and assertiveness into his policies now. But I do think it is a good view, and it's a bit of a change to have that swearing-in ceremony indoors. And I do personally think that even that there might have been an awkward music stop with Carrie Underwood, I mean, she projected her voice really well inside the rotunda, where it has great acoustics. And I mean, it was chilling to a lot of people that were there. So I think, she did her patriotic duty when an incoming president asks her to perform. And, she just did it for the country as well.
Okay, John, as Republican, what is your timeline, or do you have any particular set of a period by which you may say that the second Trump administration was a success, or what particular yardsticks will you be using?
I think, if you look at what he's talked about when it comes to the Hamas and the Israel situation, I know like the Biden administration is taking credit for, finishing it out, but, they would never made any negotiations or deals unless they know who was coming in next. And so I think that I'm optimistic to see that, the peace in the Middle East is going to come, and more safety in that region. I'm looking forward to see what he does, and I'm optimistic as well after talking with Ambassador Babe, Romualdez, some of the folks in the State Department as well, about the indications coming into the West Philippine Sea and the Ironclad Agreement, the Mutual Treaty Agreement. So I'm very optimistic about that. I think the sweeping orders when it comes to the immigration policies, when it comes to the border opening, I think that's something that's very good when it comes to what he was trying to accomplish. So, we're all optimistic about this, and we'll see what first 100 days does.
Yeah, baka natin may Tesla na rito sa BGC.
Meron na nga.
Anyway, John, thank you. Ayan, thank you for talking to
Of
us
course,
again.
maraming salamat.
The man from Batangas, John P.B. Jose, founder and CEO of the American Tomorrow Project. Still ahead, U.S. President Donald Trump gets the first member of his cabinet, Secretary of State, Little Marco Rubio. That story and more when we return. Magmamaga lang muna tayo. Magpaalam lang ha. Afternoon Delight, saglit lang. Alright, magandang hapon po muli. This is Afternoon Delight on One News. Ako po si Lourd Veyra, siya po si Ms. Denise.
And still a hot topic, the anti-adolescent pregnancy bill that's getting much resistance in and outside Congress. The measure's author, Senator Risa Ontiveros, is now dismissing false information that went as far up as Malacanang. News 5 correspondent Maricel Halili tells us more.
I was shocked and I was appalled by some of the elements of that.
Ito ang reaksyon ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos matapos umanong mabasa ang Senate Bill 1979 o ang Anti-Adolescent Pregnancy Bill.
This is all this woke that they are trying to bring into our system. You will teach four-year-olds how to masturbate. That every child has the right to try different sexualities. This is ridiculous. It is abhorrent. It is a travesty of what sex education should be to the children. What about the parents? Wala na silang karapatan na silang mag-decide kung ano at kailan tuturuan yung bata. I'm a parent and I'm a grandparent. So I feel very strongly about this.
Kaya pagtitiyak ng Pangulo,
if this bill is passed in that form, I guarantee all parents, teachers, and children, I will immediately veto it. The consequences of early pregnancy, the prevalence of HIV, kailangan ituro lahat yan para alam ng mga kabataan. Pero yung mga sinama nila na mga woke na absurdities are abhorrent to me.
agad namang sinagot ni Senador Risa Ontiveros na principal author ng panukala ang pahayag ng Pangulo. Paglilinaw niya.
Mr. President, with all due respect, maliwanag na wala po sa bill kahit ang salita na masturbation. Wala din po yung try different sexualities.
Maging ang mga nagsusulong ng comprehensive sex education dismayado sa kumakalat na maling impormasyon tungkol sa panukala. Partikular ang tungkol sa pagtuturo ng masturbation sa mga 4 na taong gulang pababa.
It's not in the bill. It was never in any of the versions since the 17th Congress. Actually, I'm asking, are we reading the same bill? Because the words that he used, the words that he said he read in the bill are actually not found in the bill.
Pero tungkol saan nga ba ang panukala? Paliwanag ng Philippine Legislators Committee on Population and Development, ito ay simpleng pagpapalakas sa existing ng mandato ng Department of Education na magturo ng comprehensive sex education. Ang mga paksa, human body and human development, personhood, healthy relationship, sexuality and sexual behaviors, sexual and reproductive health, personal safety at gender, culture, and human rights. Nakasaad din sa panuntunan ng DepEd na dapat itong ipasok sa mga subject na music, arts, PE, and health, araling panlipunan, edukasyon sa pagpapakatao, science, at personal development. Sa tanong kung aalisin ito ang karapatan ng mga magulang na magturo ng sex education sa kanilang mga anak,
We also believe that the parents are the ones who are primarily responsible. But there's also the reality that in our country, parents do not really talk about sex with their children, and children do not really seek that kind of conversation from their parents. So what we can do about this is for the state to support the teaching of sexuality education through trained professionals, and that those are the teachers, so that children will receive accurate information.
Handa naman daw si Senador Ontiveros na plansyahin pa ang anti-adolescent pregnancy bill para maipasa ito. Kasalukuyang nasa ikalawang pagbasa para sa interpellation at amendments ng Senate Bill 1979.
At this point, we give you a quick rundown of more stories on One News. Oil companies have implemented a big-time oil price hike today. Diesel prices are up by 2 pesos and 70 centavos per liter, gasoline by nearly 2 pesos, and kerosene by 2 pesos and 50 centavos. Philippine Coast Guard Commodore J. Tariela says China is strategically deploying ships to normalize its presence in the West Philippine Sea. Tariela warns that failure to challenge these movements could establish a new status quo in favor of China. The PCG's monitoring of CCG vessel 5901 of Zambales is now on its 18th day. And the Supreme Court has granted a temporary restraining order to dismiss Mandaue City Mayor Jonas Cortez. This blocks Comelec's decision to cancel his candidacy for mayor in the upcoming polls. Cortez called the TRO a victory for justice and urged unity among his supporters in Mandaue.
All right, in the United States, Republican Senator Marco Rubio becomes the first member of President Trump's cabinet. The U.S. Senate has confirmed Little Marco, as he was called, he used to be called, as Secretary of State in a 99-0 vote, hours after Trump began his second term. The Cuban-American politician is the first Hispanic to hold the nation's top diplomatic post. Rubio urges policy changes to reduce reliance on China and is advocating compromise to end the Ukraine war. Additional Senate votes on Trump cabinet nominees are expected this week. And apropos to that, let's call in our second guest for today. We have Gabriel Young, a Democrat and Secretary of the Filipino Young Professionals. Welcome back to the show, Afternoon Delight. Gabriel, maraming salamat.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be back.
All right. So there's talk that there are a lot of young liberals who are now taking a mental health day off for the next few days. Totoo ba?
Yep, that's absolutely true. I will admit, after I watched the inauguration this morning, I ended up just laying in bed for half the day, just going off on Instagram Reels and finding the nearest chocolate I can have to drown my sorrows, because I myself, I'm feeling a lot of anxiety. I'm feeling a lot of stress, and everything that he said just really boggled my mind. And so I would say what you are hearing is very correct. And I can also say that from all the text messages I've gotten from my friends, lots of crying emojis, that is very, very accurate.
Okay. Which particular parts of the oath or inauguration were you most bothered with?
I'd say all the parts of the inauguration speech, every single line, and I took notes on it as well, just for me to really process what I'm reading and what I'm seeing. And just starting from the beginning, when he's talking about a golden age of America and exceptionalism and the power to stop all wars in the name of the spirit of unity, that scares me as well, because me being a former staffer in the Biden-Harris administration, we took pride in taking a diplomatic stance that was more cordial, and I would say in the international relations term, more liberal, where we're willing to cooperate. But whenever I reflect back on the Trump 1 presidency, and whenever he wanted to solve an international conflict, he would use force, such as killing an Iranian general. And then he goes on to talk about honoring Martin Luther King's legacy. And on this day, Martin Luther King Day, where he talked about having a dream where all people can be at the table, Trump then goes and talks about equality, but doesn't talk about equity, that we all didn't start from the same place. And so my particular office I worked in was part of the executive orders that he rescinded from being created. Then talking about efficiency, talking about trade, climate change, and drill baby drill, changing the names, that it seemed very strange to me that we're becoming an America that is to the one of the past that we teach never to go back again. The America that expanded and pursued that quote-unquote manifest destiny and killed anyone in our way. So honestly, I'm very, very scared.
Malay mo, we'll be getting our first, America's first colony in outer space, for all you know.
Mars.
Yeah, there's Elon Musk.
Okay, Gabriel, people were saying Trump and his decision to quote-unquote flex his power on day one with all of his sweeping executive actions. What's the most striking for you with all of these things that he has signed already on day one?
I wouldn't say it's the particular bills or executive orders that he's revoking, but it is the gravity and the amount that he's revoking. It's almost every single executive order that the Biden-Harris administration did, such as establish my office and going back to identity as of being a Filipino American, it was the White House initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. Initially under Trump 1, it was established, but then this time around, he completely eradicated it, in addition to the other White House initiatives for Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, indigenous communities, where we're really focused on doing that outreach. One thing that we saw, for example, is small business development, that our own communities here in the United States, sometimes we ask people pay in cash so you don't have to necessarily report on taxes, but they don't understand that system. And so we're the community liaisons of sorts, that particular office that goes out, and he completely abolished it out of fear of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Another thing that was striking was the repeal of so many public health programs. Just recently, he withdrew us not only from the Paris Climate Accords, but from the World Health Organization. And that was one of the most crucial organizations that helped us combat COVID, share the importance of COVID tests, and get the vaccine rollout. And now that he is championing this anti-vaccine perspective, that giving people back pay who didn't take the vaccine and were, quote-unquote to him, wrongfully terminated, seems very odd to me that we were doing it in the motivation and incentive of public health, but then he's weaponizing science and technology and continuing that division. He keeps calling himself a unifier when his own speech himself was divisive, and he didn't even acknowledge that there's an entire other side. And it makes it even more strange that jumping on social media, a lot of conservatives and MAGA Republicans are then blaming liberals and saying the liberal snowflakes are crying in the comments, when we ourselves are waiting to be unified, but we're not being unified right now. So all in all, with all those executive orders, it was just spurring that division and spurring that pain that we are feeling right now, and seeing what we saw as 4 years of progress turn into 4 years of recession.
No, but there's diversity naman, Gabe, di ba? You have Marco Rubio, okay, who has Hispanic roots. You have Elon Musk, who's South African. And you have Pete Hegseth, a drunk from Fox News, who's now Defense Secretary. Sino pa ba? Sorry. Oh. Okay, and who cares about pulling out from the World Health Organization? There's bleach naman, you can always stare at the sun. Diba? Tapos yung mga germs na yan. Gabe, okay, a lot of people, okay, this is me just playing devil's advocate. Siguro naman daw, they're saying a second Trump administration would probably be cognizant of its lasting legacy. Unlike the first, dito raw, it's impossible naman that he would throw it all away. I mean, he would try to make, let's say, lasting history this time.
That's what we are expecting from the liberal camp, that this time around, there's a lot more permanent changes that he's seeking to do within government that's going to change it for the next generation. One particular thing that I harp on, for example, is the federal workforce itself. And one of his executive orders was to conduct a civil service hiring freeze so that only appointees can get hired. What is not known is the context behind this as well. So for those who are unfamiliar with how the government is structured, there is Schedule A, B, and then D, E. So those schedules are classifications for civil servants who get in through meritocracy and bureaucracy that the Republicans love to talk about. However, because they come through meritocracy as well, there is that strong correlation, I'm not saying causation, that they also to be champions of DEI. The only schedule that is for political appointees that can be fired is Schedule C. And so, in terms of the permanence of it, Donald Trump wants to create a new classification called Schedule F that allows for civil servants who did those responsibilities for A, B, A, B, D, and E. I know it's a lot of alphabet soup, but for them to be hired and then fired at will. And these positions would be permanent, similar to the other civil service positions, versus the political appointee positions under C that come and go with the administration. And so, all in all, we're bracing for those impacts, that the next generation is going to be led by, again, a lot of MAGA Republicans. To even further that as well, I know one of the big conversations was even birthright citizenship, and so questions about legal challenges and whatnot become a reflection of what the Supreme Court is. Sadly, the Supreme Court is 4 conservative, 3 liberal, and to that, almost 1 or 2 of the liberal justices right now are getting older, meaning that if they retire, then Donald Trump has the opportunity to put 2 more conservative justices on the bench, making it for the next generation to be led by conservative leadership from all facets of government. So, all in all, this is really scary. Our government's really being controlled by one party, and I've said it before, I still do feel that it is a failure on the Democratic Party to reach certain people, but it's also a call to action for us to realize where our faults are going wrong before next year's midterms.
All right. So how about that drink, Gabe? Okay. Your questions, Denise?
Gabriel, of course, as Filipinos, we also want to know how this would affect the Filipino community back in the States, and how the second presidency of President Trump possibly affect us Filipinos here back home.
Ako, pasingit lang. May sub-question.
Go.
How much of a shit show do you expect the whole anti-immigration campaign would be?
Yep, so for Filipino Americans, and tying in that sub-question, major, pardon my French, shit show. So the reason for that being, as we have been hearing over the news, is the fighting with Vivek and Elon versus MAGA Republicans about the H-1B visa issue and birthright citizenship and race and gender just in public-private life, and making sure quote-unquote qualified people are there instead of these DEI programs. So for Filipino Americans in particular, we benefit from those DEI programs. Currently right now in the federal government, there aren't a lot of Filipino Americans, sadly. There's still not a lot of Asian Americans, sadly. It's still predominantly white. And those DEI programs weren't about lowering standards, as MAGA Republicans like to harken on, but instead they were about providing leadership development to those Asian Americans, but not making it exclusive also to those white Americans who wanted to take it, or any other racial ethnic group. So all in all, it's trying to solve the inequities that were present within the communities in education to get them to the leadership positions within the federal government that they want to be. Going back to the H-1B issue and talking about leadership and building people up, that is what's bringing a lot of Filipinos also to the U.S. to immigrate. And with immigrating here, sometimes once they're already here, they also tend to have children here, which then leads to a pathway to citizenship. And so with repealing birthright citizenship, we're also denying the opportunity for Filipinos who are already here and just happen to have babies to gain a pathway to citizenship, instead of having them being at risk for being deported back to the Philippines, where they would be making more here in the U.S. just because of our stronger currency than back over in the Philippines. Now, switching it over, crossing the ocean and talk about the geopolitics of it all, how we see it right now with Ukraine and Poland, for example, is we are helping Ukraine, as President Trump was talking about, how we're helping our other countries with their foreign borders more than our own borders, because we see it, at least in the Biden-Harris administration, as a need for national security so that Russia doesn't keep coming over to Europe and invading Western Europe. Ukraine is essentially a bulwark. And so comparing it to the Asia Pacific, let's see Taiwan, for example. If Taiwan is that hot piece issue just like Ukraine is over in Europe, then Poland would be similar to where the Philippines is now. And this huge conversation of pulling out of NATO and making sure folks are paying what their same dues are is the same concern that's going on in the Philippines right now. Is to see if that will the Trump administration still protect the Philippines in the wake of Chinese aggression, similar to how the United States is protecting Ukraine out of Russian aggression. So those is, I'd say, it's still the questions that need to be answered, but it doesn't seem very likely right now due to Trump wanting to pursue his America First policy and him not seeing the strategic value in protecting other countries as a form of national security across the globe.
All right. I think we're really gonna get a drink after this. Thank you, Gabe. Very little time for complex discussions of even more complex matters. But thank you very much. We appreciate your time and take all the time you want to relax and be well. Gabriel Young, thank you very much.
Thank you both. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.
All right, that's Filipino Young Professionals founder, Gabriel Young.
All
Very
right.
young person.
Okay, this is Afternoon Delight on One News. We just need to pause for another breather. We'll be right back. And we're back. You're still watching Afternoon Delight. Thanks for staying with us. Now, Michelin star chef Gordon Ramsay swapped his fiery Hell's Kitchen persona for smiles and a warm welcome during his recent visit to his Manila restaurant. More from Mobile Journal, Marymon Reyes.
Today, on this very stage, we will be joined by an absolute legend, Chef Gordon Ramsay!
Celebrity restaurateur and TV personality Gordon Ramsay received an absolute rock star welcome when he hosted an exclusive event in Pasay earlier. His visit comes shortly after the opening of his first restaurant in the Philippines. The 58-year-old showed a different side to his fiery on-screen persona, engaging with the audience warmly and with humor. He even paid tribute to young culinary students in the Philippines.
It's so nice to see you all, and right over there, honestly, that is the future of the culinary Filipino industry.
And spoke about using the power of social media to build connections and profile in the culinary industry. After that, a mini cook-off took place for both celebrity and professional chefs Judy Ann Santos, Ryan Morales Reyes or Ninong Rai, Bar and Grill PH head chef Bea Cua, and culinary student Danica Lucero competed to show off their unique takes on the Pinoy dessert halo-halo. Lucero won the challenge with her sour twist on the dessert and brought home a signed jacket from the iconic chef. Ramsay also bared plans to open potentially 3 additional restaurants in the country and maybe a Hell's Kitchen restaurant to boot. He said he was already in talks for them. He called Filipino cuisine the sleeping beauty of Asia, declaring that local food could be the next big thing to captivate the world's imagination.
Honestly, these trips sound incredibly hectic and manic, but honestly, getting to meet the real essence of Manila and really understanding the power behind the cuisine has been extraordinary. So, God bless. It's an exciting 2025. Guys, the very best of luck to all of you.
Mobile journalist Marymon Reyes, we are One News.
All right, for the late, great Anthony Bourdain, sisig, or sisig, sisig ang pronunciation. Sisig is the one dish that could win the hearts and minds of the world as a whole. Gordon Ramsay's money, meanwhile, is on lumpia. Filipino chef Abby Marquez, known as the Lumpia Queen, impressed Ramsay by giving a signature beef Wellington a Filipino twist. He described the dish as a, quote, very, very posh spring roll and gushed that he loved it. Last week, Gordon challenged Marquez to prepare a lumpia version of his beef Wellington, which she gladly accepted. Gordon's first restaurant in the Philippines opened last year in Pasay City.
Is this better than yours?
Visually, wow, that looks good. It's very good. Lumpia,
Lumpia.
but I don't like it. I love it.
Gusto ko yung pinaghatak niya, tsaka pinapalo-palo niya si Gordon Ramsay.
Uy, kaka-hospital lang niya na. Ingat Abby, oo. Pero kasi, hindi mo Pag napapanood mo si Ramsay sa Hell's Kitchen, and all the loving words that spew of his mouth, yung mga bihirang-bihira yung ganyang pagpuri.
Ako ano ba yung isa niyang show, Kitchen Nightmares ba yun? Yung pupunta siya sa mga ibang restaurants or
gusto ko
hotel.
yun, actually.
Gusto ko yun. Tapos, ang natutuwa ako, pag meron siyang genuine na nagugustuhan, na let's say dessert, talagang yayakapin niya yung mga cook, yung mga...
At least, may isang saving grace yung buong
Oo.
Matindi. Actually, yung maiksing series lang yung Kitchen Nightmares. Nung ganda yung point niya, ang panghusga mo sa isang kainan, tingnan mo yung banyo. Kung yung sariling banyo nila, hindi nila maayos.
Nako.
Paano pa kaya kusina?
Correct. Okay.
Alright, ito walang lutuan. Trump still on our minds. Sa I Saw the Signs. Okay, Tita D, ano
Today's edition is Trump 2.0 images from his inauguration of this morning. Nako! This is Trump's Department of Governmental Efficiency, Elon Musk's crowd salute during a pre-inauguration rally. Here's a quick look at how Elon Musk did that exactly. Okay. Papakita natin yan, nandito yun sa big screen.
Okay, sorry.
Nasaan na ba? Ayan.
Ang dating daw kasi, ito.
Ayan. Ayan.
Para daw kasing fascist salute.
Ayun, no?
Okay. Kala nyo magbabayad kami ng free article? Hindi.
Ayan. Ayan, paulitin natin, makikita natin.
My heart goes out.
I believe he did that twice eh. Isa nakaharap sa crowd and then there was one time after that na nakatalikod siya but he did the salute again.
Medyo, ganito feeling ko hindi naman talaga siya pasista. Medyo, meron lang siyang, sabihin natin, very, very shabby human relationship skills.
Madaming nag-react dyan though dahil alam natin sa ibang bansa, may consequences yan, criminalized yan, yung salute na yan, doing that salute. Ang alam ko.
Pero, i-argue mo rin na intentional ba o...
O baka gigil lang.
Oo. Pag sinabi mong sa Italy kasi ganyan yung pati yung mga yung mga nakita mo ba yung sa campaign ni Trump yung tumalon siya? Very awkward na parang gamunggong talon lang.
Tingnan natin kung ano sabihin ng mga netizens. Okay, next up is a photograph. Tech billionaires present in the so-called populist President Donald Trump's inauguration. They're in the second row. Here's Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg and his wife Priscilla Chan, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, Google CEO Sundar Pichai, and Elon Musk, of course, the world's wealthiest person and owner of Tesla, SpaceX, and social platform X.
So, Amazon, SpaceX, Tesla, at Meta.
Yes.
Tinan mo si Zuckerberg, mukha na siyang Puerto Rican zigo.
Oy, nakita mo yung isang video na lumabas, parang yung napatingin si Zuckerberg? Below, basta. Mamaya papakita ko yung video. Okay.
Below sea level?
Hindi naman. Okay, last photo. Ito pinag-uusapan natin kanina, nabanggit din natin. Melania Trump's hot hat. Hot hat? Hot hat.
Oo.
Ayan. No one out-pizzas the hot. Sabi dun sa post ng The Daily Show.
Oo. Yun lang palang sikreto para ma-deflect yung asawa.
Ay, meron pa.
Meron pa?
Ay, meron pa daw. Teka, papakita natin. Naku, teka lang.
Pero bakit kasi ganon?
Ito, before we end
Kailangan niya alam ba bakit kailangan niya magsombrero? Nilalamig siya. Diba? Para maging feeling mo ay
ano?
hat. Give us a hat music.
Badumts. Okay. Ito, before we go, a word from the Department of Science and Technology Batangas chapter. DOST Batangas may have just found a new fresh way of posting. Teka, hindi yan. May isa
Ito
pa.
yata.
Ito. Ito yung tungkol sa lindol.
Tanongan, lumindol eh. Lumindol ba talaga? Okay.
Ay, ano ba? Parang ang dami pa.
Alam mo, pwede naman bukas to.
May isa pa kasing post. Pangalawa na to. Na parang kino-confirm nila na lumindol. Oo.
Okay. So ano ba kakaiba sa kanya? Parang ano lang siya?
Parang opo. Ay, ang nakalagay sa previous post, ang sabi, opo, lumindol. Wait for updates. Nung maraming nag-comment sa post na yan, DOST Batangas had another post that said, kung ganun daw ba dapat mag-update ng lindol? Alanganin namang, Diyos ko po, follow our page. Sagot namin ang S&T update. So ito yon.
Oo, Diyos ko po. Sabi nila, pag ganito, fina-follow ninyo, pag yung normal lang, hindi nasi-share. So, kung engagement ang anuhan, ano ba naman i-follow yung page namin?
Correct.
In short, mapagpatol si admin.
At ang sabi nila, ito may follow-up sila, thank you for engaging with us. We hope that your engagement translates into a deeper love for science, technology, and innovation. So magaling ginawa nila.
May iba, ito yung po yun yan, DOST Batangas, this type of energy for all government counts. I might as well follow them straight up.
Correct. Kasi yung iba ngayon, susundan sila just to see kung magpo-post pa ulit sila ng ganyan.
Correct. At maraming malulungkot na tao sa social media.
Kailangan natin pasayahin. At sana po ay mapasaya din. Napasaya
Tuloy natin yung
namin
discussion
kayo.
na yan bukas.
Correct. Sana napasaya namin kayo for today. That will have to do it for us this Tuesday. Thanks for watching Afternoon Delight. Ako po si Denise Tan.
Okay, join us again tomorrow, 2 p.m. Ako po si Lourd de Veyra, nagsabing magapaalam na kami. Bukas ulit.